Alright, g'day everyone, welcome to my little video here. I'm going to try to do this stuff to the point, so let's get right into it. Center stoppage structures, this is based on my observations, as you see here. Playing a little bit, realising I don't know very much about how the midfield works, especially the stoppages, and I'd very much like to. Personally, I really want to become a genuine midfielder, so this is sort of an integral personal process for that. And if I can get something out of it, maybe you guys can too. So the games that I saw live were Melbourne GWS, Carlton Geelong, Richmond, Collingwood, and I didn't see it live, but I watched the video last night of Tigers versus Koroit, and that's the footage that we're going to test my sort of observations against in this video. So my sort of hypothesis overall, we're going to go through each player's role, and in this standard ideal centre bound structure, which seems to be the norm that there are some adjustments made from, but there is, to my mind, seems to be a very stable norm. So let's get into that. Starting with the ruckman, you see here two little arrows. I think you guys can see my cursor. I hope you can. So I'd call it the most influential player because they sort of dictate what everyone else is going to do. And it makes sense. They get first touch on the ball. So, somewhat obvious. And there might be, a lot of this may seem very obvious, but, so be it, I guess. All right, so both typically start defensive goal side. Typically will tap to their left with the inside of the right hand to hit the players. I haven't seen any left-handed southpaw ruckmen. Maybe they exist. It's a total unknown to me. So basically, for example, if you look at the red player here, they'll be tapping to their left, and the blue player will be tapping to his left with their right hand. So the ruck itself is not something that I really understand, and it's not actually the focus of this analysis. My focus is more on the rovers, and the ruck tap is sort of just a starting point. So the primary, what have I said here? The secondary ruck tap. The primary ruck tap is to hit two guys, and they'll be to the side here. I've neglected to mention that in the text, but the secondary ruck tap is sort of forward. So for the red example, it's hit two and then forward. So you got this sort of zone, 90 degrees from your left to your forward, which is sort of your hitting target. And it's the same likewise for the blue. Right. So some maneuvering, onus on the ruckman, who is less dominant to make non-standard adjustments, and the losing team to adjust. So basically that just means if you're winning, you don't have to change a thing. And if you're losing, well, you got to change something. Right, number two, here we go. Hit two, I call it the most dynamic position. This seems to be the bit that changes. This is the movable part, and everything else is mostly pretty stable. Right, so as I said here, they are the primary ruck tap target. When they do get the ball, ideally running kicks straight out. If they can't do that, they'll handball to a free teammate. And a lot of the stoppages can be quite chaotic, so it's very dynamic, very fluid. There'll be little pockets of space. Typically, hit twos, they really want front position. That's really important, and that ties into this idea of moving with momentum. So not collecting the balls standing still, because you can't do anything with it, and it's very easy for you to get shut down. Feature of this matchup is very direct, very close. No one sort of allows the other guy to be free. This is something that's a pattern in the wingers too. It's not worth it to get yourself free and enable the risk of having the other guy free, is my assumption. Every time someone seems, 90% of the time when someone is a little bit free, the entire midfield or one player or the entire midfield will shuffle around to ensure that it is one-on-one. So you basically do end up having three one-on-ones 90% of the time. Not always, 90% of the time. So that's a standard move. The difference I've seen between the high tier, the AFL, and the non-AFL is the high tier teams have started a lot wider, and then they go across the contest. I think this is because if you look at it in this graphic, it's where the space is. The space isn't to run into the other opposition sweeper or into the other guys. They want to run across into the open side. I'm pointing at the screen, but here's my cursor here. They want to run into the open side, and you can reverse that the other way. Yeah, so the high tier players seem to start wider and use that momentum, whereas we'll look into our examples at Tigers and Koroit. Generally, they start closer and have less movement. So we'll get into that in time. The hit to unknowns. So I said this is something of a learning process for me, very much. So the unknowns, the questions that I have here is the balance here in the matchup between attacking and defending, the tagging dynamics. I didn't really see any pure tagging, but I saw a lot of players that just don't want to give the other guy any space, and everybody wants front position. So it's sort of a bit of a tussle, bit of a draw at all times. Minimal advantage, and if you can get that advantage, it's obviously, it can be huge. Second unknown, which side to start the run from. I think this is dependent probably on the ruck contest, who's winning, where do they want to go to, where are the ruckmen sort of adjusting their run-ups. You know, if blue shuffles around to the bottom of the square, that changes something. If red goes to the top, that changes something. You know, those things adjust that. And ties into, as well, point number 3, the influence of foot dominance. I don't really know how a right footer, a really dominant right footer, wants to approach it compared to someone who can only really use their left foot. And my assumption here is that this position probably requires you to be really ambidextrous. You want to be able to go both, because you just don't have the space to wheel around onto the one side that you do have a preference, if you do have a heavy preference. Last point here, 4, whether to collect the ball while coming into the contest or whether to go out the back, kind of thing. I think that's an issue about timing, and also whether ruck is dropping it. So generally, if you wanted to get it, let's say if these two start here, it's more normal and probably safer to get it on the way in and then try to burst through. Because the ruckmen typically aren't in a balanced position to tackle you, so they're sort of half out of the contest. It would be a riskier move to try to get it on the way out, but that is definitely an adjustment that you can make, and we'll see that in examples as we go. So position 3 here, sweepers. So this is really a stable standard position. Every single team had a sweeper across every level of play, and it's very similar across those levels. So both defensive goal side you see here rarely, if ever, uses a ruck, because it makes sense, they're at the back. So I've said here, conversely used as a primary attacking outlet. So they don't get the ball initially from the tap, but because they're at the back and because they are facing forward direction, they're actually in a good position to get the clearance from a handball, like we said. So hit to receives, sweeper gets it out. So this is, some basic stuff you'll be looking at, but we'll look at the more complex stuff in examples. Yeah, cool. So that's sweepers. So this position I'm just calling top of the circle because that's literally what Toby Oakley called it when I played against Camperdown in the midfield. This is where he put me, Chizigo, here at the top of the circle. Now I played it differently to what this was. I played that day very defensively and essentially treated myself as a tagger. Will said midweek, if you play midfield, we're going to be using you as a tagger on this Camperdown guy who is like named in the best every week. So just try to shut him down, run with him and do what you can. So that was my approach. I didn't play in front. I played at the back. So essentially we had 2 sweepers and it sort of worked okay. But, the standard procedure here is in front. So that enables you to be that secondary ruck tap target after the hit 2 and you're a tertiary attacking outlet. So ideally, it's the hit 2 guy gets a clean break. If not, he gets it to the sweeper who gets a clean break, and after that, it's you. So you're it sort of leads to this position where I feel like they don't have a primary role as such. They're very much a utility. They do a little bit of everything, and that's sort of my question. Is that correct? Am I missing something? Stuff like that. So yeah, are they mostly a defensive role? Is their job to prevent the hit 2 running past them, to prevent the opposition sweeper having time and space, and also to be in a decent position to rove loose balls and maybe get free for a hand pass. So I've got my little arrows here, same side, sort of 3 directions, sort of demonstrates that. As I said, that's just the name that I'm calling it. I'm sure there's a better name for it, but I don't know. So if there is a better name, please educate me. Last and probably least is wingers. So this was pretty consistent across all grades. Again, both defensive goal side, 80% of the time or more, they stay wide. They don't come in unless there's a really clear need to. So if there's a 90% or great chance that they can impact the contest, yeah, they'll come in. But generally they stay wide. And I think that's because it's too great a risk to take. If you go in, you leave your guy free in a really attacking position, space out the back. And that seems to be not worth it, at least in my hypothetical. So the same sort of principles apply to the half forwards and half backs, which I haven't bothered to draw here. And that's because, in brackets here, midfielder's first choice will be to kick deep in the forward line over them. So very much a tertiary option, or a alternative option even. All right, cool. That concludes the little hypothesis. We'll get on to the examples. So this is Koroit's game, Koroit v Tigers at Koroit, Victoria Park. Toby Oakley is our ruck, so that's a cool personal touch. I played in the midfield with him, and now he's playing in this game, which is cool. Now we get whopped here. I believe there is 28 centre bounces. I'm going to go through each one. It may be a little bit tedious, to do that, but there's absolutely value in being thorough like this. Okay, centre bounce number 1 here. So Koroit kicking to the left, Tigers kicking to the right. We got 2 sweepers from both teams, fairly deep to begin with. The hit 2 guys are over on the left here, so the momentum is for them to go towards Tigers' goals. And we'll see, these are the guys we're going to watch. All through, we're mostly going to watch the difference in the hit 2 positions. So we're going to play through here and see what happens. I'm actually going to try to slow it down just a little bit to see what happens here, as it does go way too quick at the naked eye most of the time. So Jacko squeezes in a front position here, gets on the move, really nice, but the hit is a little bit wider and the Koroit guy at the back is able to go across. So Jacko, I think, in a really solid position. This is something that you might put down to distancing. So very much under the ruckman, very much close, and the ruck tap goes a little bit too far. The hit 2 guy at the back is able to get it, but you can see immediately the physical contest between these hit 2 players. They don't want to let either have space, but the front position mostly has advantage unless they get too close, in which case back guy has advantage. And that's what happens here. Back guy gets it on the move, instant quick kick, advantage Koroit. Right, ruck tap number 2. So immediately we've got a change of personnel here. No more Jackos, so the hit 2 is different. And we've got a very different approach here. So the standard sweepers are still there. Koroit sweeper very deep. Josh here is hit 2 versus Koroit number 23. So with the ruck dynamics already, I think for most of the game, the dominant ruckman is the Koroit ruckman. And, credit to him. I think Toby's pretty good, but this Koroit guy seems really fucking good. So we're going to see what happens here. Again, we'll keep it at that same slower speed, just for ease of ability to see. So ruck tap goes up. You can see Josh is sort of blocked by 8, so we've got 2 in this position at the top of the square, and the hit 2 for them is totally free. He started to move at pace, and he's gone pretty close in. Toby's followed him, so their sweeper is in a really dangerous free position. Now, just like last time, the hit is a little bit behind the hit 2, so our hit, or all hit 2s so far have been too close, and that's sort of where it goes. The sweeper out the back gets a ball, ruckman's free. Our winger here in Kyle has gone in off the contest, and immediately his man is being able to get the ball, hand pass under pressure. Their ruckman, who's just followed it on, and a nice little kick. That's some Dean Cox play. That's good shit, and a nice mark from them. So, well done, Koroit. That's 2 to them. I'll be keeping a running tally, and we'll visit that over time. Okay, ruck tap 3 here. So a few things change again, and we'll go through that. Again, a little bit of a change of personnel. So Koroit have just won 2. If this doesn't want to glitch on me, yeah, there we go. So Toby's immediately making an adjustment, going in, changing the angle. I'll pause here to identify the positions. So Hazmac very far back is sweeper, their sweeper and our top there. But Sharpie's got 2 of their boys, so their top and their hit 2 has gone straight to him. And it seems like both ruckmen are going to go to this 2v1. But Koroit ruck gets a tap, but hits it straight to Toby. Toby's unable to find the pass to Hazmac, which is unfortunate. Ball sort of cannons out a little bit, and they use that little pocket of space and are able to get it away. So a few interesting changes there, but it's another one to Koroit. Okay, ruck tap number 4 here, middle stoppage number 4. So again, a little bit of an adjustment. You can see just, well, you can't see, just to the left of the screen here, that's our sweeper and a Koroit guy starting back. I think it's Haz again, starting very deep at sweeper. So otherwise, it's sort of standard. Sweeper and hit 2s both getting right man on. So let's get this playback, slow it down, and see what happens on this one. So it goes up, Koroit ruck gets there, Jacko moving in at pace, gets in a great position to get it. Unfortunately, can't get it clean like previous, so the Koroit guy at the back gets it, but he's under immense pressure and has in that sweeper position, is able to make a bit of an impact. I may have fucked up the volume on that one. So a little bit messy, just like this, but it works out to a Portland win. So first for the game, that's good. Stoppage number 5. So again, a little bit different this time. Our sweeper this time is Josh, and he's playing a lot further in along with his opponent. He's the only one not super man on, which is not a judgment, just an observation. And we'll see what happens here. So again, slow-mo, hit 2s, wrestling. Their top of the square guy gets this secondary, option, gets the crumb, but Josh is in a position to wrap him up immediately. So it's very much a draw. No one's giving anything away. It's pretty static, this one. So it's not surprising. Very defensive, very static. No one wins. It's a draw. Okay, stoppage number 6. This is the start of the second quarter. Everything's pretty normal here. There's 2 things I want you to watch in this clip. One is the 2 hit 2s here to the side. They're on the Koroit favored time. For some reason, they just seem to be at the far side of the ground for most of what we've seen so far. I'll pay attention to that as it goes on. The second thing to watch here is between the top of the circle here and Hazmac, and we'll play through. So this is a bit of a draw from the ruck. I think Toby went the man a bit more, and that created a bit more chaos. So the ball comes out to Hazmac. His opponent went in, but the ball came out to Hazmac. So that's a really nice advantage to him. Unfortunately, he gets tackled immediately from behind, and so does Harrison Hampshire there, number 3, who also had an opportunity to make a disposal, but both times. So it's sort of 0 from 2 there, and Koroit end up getting a free. So it's actually advantage Portland for most of that. We get 2 half chances because we had a really good sweeping position, but they get the clearance. All right, center stoppage 7. So this is very much the standard setup so far. almost identical to the graphic. I want you to watch this time the hit twos. Now the number 6, the hit twos I said before to watch, but they were very static. The thing that I wanted to point out was they're just very static. This time our Tigers player, Toby, is pretty static and their guy isn't, and we'll look at the difference there. So at the moment they're sort of separate, but they'll converge here. So here we go, they're converging. Toby's doing a little bit more adjusting. Koroit guy gets it again, tap out the back, their hit two guy moving at pace. This is a move that Benny Malcolm and Falks do a lot superbly, and Koroit have used it against us here really nicely. Really clean clearance, really good stuff. Alright, center stoppage 8. So we've changed up a little bit here. We've ditched the deep sweeper. Hazmak used to do that a lot in the first quarter. This time he's pushed up a little bit, and that's a really interesting change. We have gone sort of 3 guys playing in front here, so we want that first ball, which is an interesting change. So we'll play through, slow, see what happens. Have a look at the movement. The movement, guys getting on the move, getting a little bit of space. Hazmak finds that little bit of space. The Koroit guy goes aggressively and leaves him, and that enables Haz, even though he would get stopped at the point of collecting the ball, that little bit of disrespect from the Koroit player, Haz just punishes it, which you love. Finds the loose handball on the outside, and really, really good clearance for us. Okay, center stoppage 9. So this is pretty standard. I would point that again, the hit two guys are facing the side that Toby would have advantage to rather than Koroit. Right hand would have advantage to. Want you to watch the movement here of the hit twos, especially 8. We'll slow it down again and play it forward. So slow. Toby wins the tap here, gets it to Josh as our front position, top of the square. He's unable to take it clean. I'm going to replay it because it was pretty quick. Unable to take it clean, and look at the pressure from number 8 coming into that contest. Really hard to take any possession against that. So this is pretty scrappy, very much a draw so far, and I think Davey gets a free kick here for... No, I didn't see what the call was, I don't care, but that's a clearance win to us. Okay, center stoppage 10. So we've gone back to the 2 sweepers idea. Again, this is something that I'd like to, I'd like to know whose initiative it is. Is it us forcing these moves? How intentional is it from either team? Anyway, gonna watch this again in slow-mo. We'll see what happens. So again, the Koroit guy is pretty dominant at the moment. He gets the tap to his preferred side. Their guy gets front position and he earns a free kick with high contact. That's just virtue of having front position. These little 50-50s go your way more often. They're not 50-50s if you got front position. It's actually it's a 66-33. Center stoppage 11 now. So out of change of ruckman, Benny Malks has come in here and Shep has come into the midfield too. I want you to watch Shep here and Shep's movement especially. So again, it's going slow. Shep immediately looking to get on the move, twisting and turning. So this one is pretty much a draw, but it goes to Benny Malk's favoured side. Now, out the back here, Gaz as sweeper is in the space, and that's where the tap is gone. And this comes into a really nice clearance overall for Tigers, but I want to replay that. Just again, to point out, the movement from Shep, I think, creates the chaos, that creates the space that gets Gaz space out the back. Yeah, that's what I see. I think that's really good. I will just play through the kick here. Yeah, clearance win, boys. It's a nice contest here from Walshy too. That's courageous, mate. Well done. Alright, center stoppage 12. So again, we've gone to 2 sweepers. Again, I don't know how intentional it is, but this is what happens. So everybody go into the 1v1 positions. This is really scrappy. I want you to watch the Koroit player from the right of screen coming in hot. So that's where the ball sort of goes to. I think it's pretty fortuitous for them. I'm going to pause it here. So Harold coming in behind him. Waddle, I'm just going to play it forward and then replay it. So really good contested ball, but it comes out and they get the clearance by a couple of exploiting the pockets, quick handball, quick kick, a little bit of fortune from the tap out from Oakley. I don't think I've ever called you Oakley in my life, Toby, but it's a commentator's theme. All right, so this one's the first time I'm going to talk about those outside players, the wingers, or thereafter. So I want to replay it from that perspective. So very congested ball. I think the sweeper for us has advantage, and that's okay. But I want to stop it here. So Harold's man's gone in, and I think Harold's job, and this is a guess, this is an assumption, but I'm asking the question. I think Harold's job is to close the exits because he's not going to get the ball. His job is defensive side, close the exits. He's now a sweeper, essentially, in this very fluid game that we play. But if you see, watch 15 here, he's going to drop into the space behind him. So Harold's run to the right of the contest, I think looking for the out ball for him to attack, and it's gone the other way and he's been punished. So that's sort of my guess. Is the first time I've talked about the winger type things or half forwards or whatever. My guess is if you're playing at the back, your first responsibility is defense, and only if your team gets the ball clearly are you allowed to make that aggressive run. Because otherwise, I think you can get punished like that. So another clearance to Koroit, and it leads into a pretty good goal kicking opportunity. These center clearances, they're so valuable because they provide the most direct, chaotic, best chances of scoring. Alright, if you made it this far, I want to say thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Here's a bonus clip for you. I just want to point out Big Source. This is my favorite clip of the game. Just favorite moment. I just love this shit. Just watch it, man. It's a bit of a scrap here. Ignore the glitching there. Bit of a scrap. Doesn't like him, mate. Fuck you. Sit the fuck down. Shut up. Just casual as you like. And no one from Koroit is going to do anything about it because it's Big Source. Yeah, good shit. Okay, stoppage 13. So this is pretty standard. The only thing I want to point out from this clip is the positioning of our sweeper, Josh, and his opponent. So like previous, Josh has got a bit of an established style here. So I think he played a lot of halfback flank, and I played a lot myself there. It's a great position to sort of play a little zonal, give yourself a bit of space, intercept, and do that kind of stuff. And I think that's the approach he's taking into this one. So it's really cool to play out. He did it really effectively before. So we're going to make sure we slow it down again. Play it forward. And here we go. So their guy gets on the move. Josh comes in. It goes really to the opposite end of the contest. So this time it's way further away from Josh and he can't quite make up the ground like he was able to tackle before. I think that's okay. I'm not super unhappy about that. I think it's just a bit unlucky. Very scrappy clearance, but it's a Koroit clearance. Okay, center stoppage 14. So again, really standard start. Sweepers, top of the square. Couple of hit twos playing on each other. Then hit twos are both to Toby's advantage. The Koroit ruckman has changed. It's their backup ruckman, and Toby's gonna fucking monster him. So in slow-mo, see how this goes. Again, I want to point out the positioning. Sharpie will work his way to the front, which is really good. And Shep again is going to get on the move, and this creates a lot of potential for us. Now, unfortunately, the tap can't be landed clean, and it's collected by Shep's opponent, who just had the fortunate side there, who gets a clearance kick. So I want to replay this to point out the angles that Shep and his opponent are working here, and the way they have consequence on the tap. So Shep's working the inside. He's going to, I'm pointing at the screen where I didn't use my mouse. Shep's going to cut across the inside, the sharp is left, but the ball is going to go the other way to sharp is right. And that favors the Koroit opponent. So I actually put this down to Koroit luck and our unfortunate execution. So again, watch this in slow-mo. And there it is. Again, that separation of going, one player went to the right of the two players there, Sharpie and his opponent, and the Koroit player went to the left. That creates a lot of separation, and that enables the Koroit guy to get a pretty easy kick away. Anyway, we mop up, but it's a clearance to Koroit. Alright, 14 of 18, so 14 of 28. We're at the halfway mark here, and I just want to show you the running tally. So you can see to the right the stoppages as they go, who's won each one. It's predominantly been Koroit. You see that in the total, so it's 9 to Koroit, 4 to Portland, and 1 to draw. Pretty heavily in their favour, and if you win the centre stoppages, it gives you it gives you a really strong advantage to hit the scoreboard first too, and I think that's what's happened. Okay, centre stoppage number 15. So again, we've got the same ruck matchup. Toby's going to dominate this one again, same as. It's actually going to be really similar. A few key differences. One of them is the movements of our two sweepers here. So we've seen our sweepers stay back, hang back, use that space on the way back. This time they're going to run forward. I'd love to know how intentional it is, and especially to the conditions of the game. Did you guys see Toby dominate the Rockman last time and say, hey, we're going to do that again and exploit that? Because if so, that's really cool. I'm super impressed if that's the case. Anyway, we're going to slow it down and show you what happens. Alright, so ruck goes up. Shep at the top, he's going to get the nice clean hit. It's going to go straight to him, collects it, and he gets a free kick for being tackled without the ball. But again, like I said before, this is why you get front position. You get rewarded. All the chances go your way. The odds are in your favor if you get front position. And if I rewind it here just to reinforce that point about the runners from the sweeping position, if Shep is able to get a proper clean disposal out, Sharp is on, and Jacko especially on that side is on, and they're away. So it's a really, really strong centre clearance for us, even though it wasn't that clean as such. Okay, this is the second half now, and we're at ruck, centre stoppage 17. For some reason, the very first one of the second half was not captured by the video, so yeah, we missed it. I don't know who won. Anyway, a few things to point out on this. It's very interesting things to point out. First and least, well, not least, but first is to say that the Koroit main ruckman is back on, so that changes the dynamic. The second thing to notice here is for the first time in the game, both hit two players here, Toby and their number 4, taking really, really aggressive positions. They're not manning up. For the first time really in the game, they're not manning up. And it's not just a player thing, but it's a positional thing. No one's manning up. And I want to point out that they're both on the aggressive side. So Toby's naturally going to hit to Toby here, and on the left, and on the far side, and the Koroit ruckman's naturally going to hit to where the 4 is. The other thing to point out is I want you to see what the Koroit sweeper is going to do. Again, I'm pointing at the screen, but yeah, what the Koroit sweeper is going to do. So it is in slow-mo here, I think. So we'll play it forward and see what happens. So, ball goes up, Koroit ruckman wins, Koroit player streaming forward into the space, bang, clean centre clearance, to a contest though. So I'll replay that again, just because we can. Yeah, have a look at number 4 and the other bloke. So number 4 actually drifts back over to Toby. He's pussied out a little bit, but the other guy has taken his place. And that switch is, yeah, I don't know, I call it a pussy out there because he's gone back to defensive side. But it's also, you know, you could interpret it as a really heads-up cool play from Koroit. Because, again, you want that receiving player to be running at pace. And that was absolutely the epitome of that from the Koroit sweeper there. Run forward at pace, get the clearance. And now it's advantage Koroit here. Okay, center stoppage 18. So we've got to change a ruck here. Benny Malks is in, and the Koroit secondary ruckman is in too. So a bit of a switch has happened, and the trend of having two sweepers for us in the first half has reversed. We have Hazmak back at his original deep sweeping position, and we have sort of two top of the squares. No one is, like I said at the start of the video, no one starts wide and runs in, but we do have a lot more movement this time. So the movement from Jacko I think is really, really positive. It's the Benny Malk special tap behind him, and I think Sharpie here will play top of the square, but I'll let it play and I'll explain as we go. So space at the back. Unfortunately, the tap doesn't quite come on. Sharpie gets pushed under the ball. That's what I was trying to say. Gets a little too close, gets pushed under. That space out the back for Koroit. Easy mode forward. Center stoppage 19. So this is slightly different again. We got Benny Malks in against the Koroit secondary ruckman. Again, we've stayed with that theme for the second half of having two sort of top of the square. No one really playing that hit two coming in from the side. It's really two top players and a sweeper. So I'll slow this down, play it forward. It's a bit of a weird ruck contest, a bit of a draw there. We've seen Sharpie really likes to get into this front position. He does that again. Josh prefers generally the back position, a little bit of space out the back, and Josh will get rewarded here that time. So Benny Malk's able to find the hand pass out. Josh in that backspace uses that. Nice clearance to the space at centre half forward, and good attack on the ball there from Hazmak. So great clearance to us. Stoppage 20. So this one I think shows the structures really, really well. Things go as they should according to the structures. So like the last one, we've maintained that two at the top. It's even more clear this time. They've got their guy at the top in front. The change of ruckman again. Koroit primary ruckman is back, and Toby's back in the ruck for us. Usually it's been this guy having the edge in height, I think, and reach a little bit over Toby, and that's what we see here. So if I play back, speed slower, play it forward, I want to show you the pace at which these Koroit players go forward. So that top of the square player, top of the circle player for Koroit gets the clean pickup, even though Shep's right on him. So impressive from the Koroit player. And look at here on the right. Josh playing from behind, stayed with his man the whole way, but it's so hard to stop a moving train. And that's what's happening here. If you watch this matchup, the momentum is already there. So ball goes forward. Josh is right there with him. He's got hands on him, but it's so hard to stop that momentum once it's already happened. And we have another really strong deep clearance into Koroit's forward line. Good attack on the ball from them, and he can wheel it, put it forward again. Okay, stoppage 21. So we got a little bit different again. This is exciting. I've said that every time, but it's true. So the consistency of the same thing again is Tigers. We've got two sort of at the top of the square. Yeah, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on how on why this is the case. Are you matching what Koroit's doing? Are they matching what you're doing? And if we're matching what if we're the protagonist here, if we're the catalyst, I'd love to know the thought process behind that. Anyway, Koroit ruckman has the sort of the dominance. Pointing the screen, Koroit ruckman here is the dominant one here. So Toby's got to adapt, and this is something I think Toby does well. He tries to adapt in novel ways, and this is a really cool one. I'm gonna slow it down here because, yeah. So this time Toby doesn't go in; he fakes him out and goes exactly where the Koroit player should go, right to that 90 degree to left and front. and it works out beautifully. Gets the handball in a space over the top. Jacko's able to get away. It's not a really strong clearance, but we run on really well. So a bit unorthodox, but that's fantastic. That's exactly what I mentioned earlier. If you're losing, you got to change up what you're doing. Stoppage 22. All right, this is the first one of the final quarter. So we've maintained this theme of us having 2 at the top, or alternatively, you can look at it as Koroit having 2 sweepers. Now I've actually got a little, I want to step back here just 3 seconds. So the key thing here I want to show you is the movement of this, and it's a real theme, the movement of the Koroit players from this sweeper position, this guy in particular on Gaz. So we're gonna slow it down. Koroit guy is dominant in the ruck again, and I want you to look at this. This is a very intentional tap. 15 here, making the run. This time it's an unorthodox tap from the Koroit ruckman to the right this time. He's not going to his preferred side. He's switching up in the last quarter. He's gone to the right, and that's to the run of 15. So it's obviously very intentional. They've worked, they've communicated, very intentional, and it creates a very favorable passage. They get the clearance again, hit up lead thereafter, strong clearance to Koroit. I don't think Gaz has done a lot wrong, but it's worth asking at this point, what should you do from that position as a player? So for the purposes of asking that question, we'll have a look. So like Josh before, it's so hard once he's got that momentum forward to go. I feel like you almost have to stop it. You have to somehow stop him running. And that's a hard task, especially for a young, slim player like Gaz. You know, not a criticism at all. One of my favorite players to watch. But it's a situation we find ourselves in. Okay, stoppage 23. We're on the home stretch now. So this is a really standard setup. The hit 2 players are on the Koroit ruckman's dominant side, which makes a lot of sense at this point in the game. And I want to show you how they adjust. Again, fourth quarter. You know, you other teams got used to it a bit. You bring out your plan Bs and Cs and Ds. So that's slower. Toby's adjusting for 1 as a ruckman, coming in closer. I like that a lot. Unfortunately, mistimes the jump. But the Koroit ruckman's done the Benny Malks play that I mentioned before. Tap behind, and it's worked out mostly for Koroit. So again, Koroit really strong around the stoppages, really impressive clearance from them. Even a little bit scrappy, but that's football. Ooh. Stoppage 24. This one is all about front and center position. So we're gonna play it. Oh my god! I'm gonna play it slower. Jacko and Shep here in front position. Get a really nice tap. So that's what happens, but I want to go back here and show you sort of the setup here. So the ruck contest we mentioned, Koroit ruckman is really on top. But Toby's managing to make it a bit of a draw. The Koroit ruckman again taps it behind himself. So this time just shutting down that front center position and us having a really good spread of players around, even spread around the contest, seems to have worked out really well there. We get a nice clearance. Again, really nice pickup from Shep too, at pace. So he's got that. It's worth, I think, replaying it again, just to show you the movement as he picks up the ball. So Shep moving as he picks up the ball, really hard to tackle, really hard to stop, just like we saw Koroit do it before. Stoppage 25. This one's all about front position. So Benny Malks back in, and he fares a little bit better in height against this ruckman. I'm not going to go slow-mo. We're just going to go frame by frame here, because we can do that. So Benny Malks gets a little tap, but I want to show you here the front position of the Koroit players. The hit 2 guy has run on, Gaz is trailing him as best he can. Hazmak is no longer sweeper as he has been most of the game. He's hit to, but he's maintained his sweeper position at the back. So all three of the Koroit players are in the front position. So even though Benny Malk, now in the ruck, has actually won the tap, it's a moot point. It doesn't mean very much because all three Koroit players are there to robe it, and that's what happens. Two Koroit players in front. Now Gaz, because it's really high skill, gets a little tap here, try to advantage, but numbers advantage wins out here. It's more basic. So play on, that's what happens. And another nice clearance to Koroit. This time it's out the back, so it's less damaging, but still clearance is a clearance. Okay, stoppage 26. So Benny Malks against their secondary ruckman. Now this guy, I don't think, number 9, I don't think he's won a tap all day. Certainly not center square taps. So we're going to play frame by frame here. Benny Malks will get the tap, but I think the throw is a little bit away from him. So it forces a... Oh, this is why I don't go frame by frame. It glitches. It forces a really awkward tap into the space. Now again, I'm pointing at the screen. Again, the Koroit player for the hit 2 position from the side on roving position is in front pos, and that's gives him the best chance to get it. Sort of similar to before, Gaz is able to get the bounce, but it's a draw. So, you know, we won the tap, they had the better roving position, and it works out just to be a straight up draw for only the second draw of the game so far. Alright, stoppage 27. So this one, different again. We see something new here, or a little development. So Toby back in the ruck against Koroit's number 1 ruck. We've got the 2 top of the circles, and they've got the 2 sweepers again, so that's been the theme of the second half. Hazmak back on sweeper, pointing at the screen. Here's a mouse cursor. So Toby again, onus is on him to change up. He goes to his previous method of faking out the opposition ruckman and goes exactly where he thinks the ruckman's going to tap it to. I think this is cool because the ruckman's looking at the ball, right? He can't actually see where the other ruck is, or at least that's why I expect this to work. But now this time the ruckman, the number 12 is onto it. So he taps it here beautifully to their top of the circle player, and he's moving in. He's got a bit of space on Haz there, who's probably for the first time punished for this deep positioning as a sweeper that he's done consistently all game. And it turns out to be a really easy clearance for Koroit. So, you know, I don't hate the plays that we made there, but we got made to look pretty silly. You know, that's all right. Okay, so for those playing at home, have the totals here. Total first half, Koroit 9, Portland 4, 1 draw. Total second half, Koroit 7, Portland 3, draw 1. So total for the game, Koroit 16, Portland 7, 2 draws. So Koroit really dominant, and I think really impressive. They employed really well a lot of the key themes they were identified at the start of the video, and that's primarily front positioning and moving at pace, especially as a guy trying to receive the ball from the tap ruckman. I think their ruckman also was really impressive. Pretty dominant throughout. I think he had the wood over Toby for most of the game. And you know, I make observations through the game. I'm not trying to criticize anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just doing this as a learning exercise. So I hope, you know, I've certainly learned a lot from this, I think, and I hope you guys will too. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, time for a second bonus clip. This is a double. This is a double. So Harold, this is why you go side on to the contest, because otherwise you get elbows. Damn, that shit hurts. Ouch. Right in the solar plexus. This one though, mate, this is magnificent. Attack on the ball and a beautiful falcon from Twixie. Oh, spectacular. And nice roving from Jacko too, front and center. Good stuff, good stuff.